your second time, right, at the film festival?
Indeed, yes, I was here 3 years ago.
Yeah, but this is your first time opening, correct?
It's the first time I've come here with any kind of value, I think.
Really?
Any kind of profile.
All right. So what kind of feelings are you experiencing because of that?
I think because of the last film I made was kind of launched here and did very well after I'd been here. So I think that this time, clearly there's a sort of burden of expectation on this film that one did not have, and you kind of sense that when you arrive. Firstly, because it's part of the opening night films, and that's an honour, I guess, and one that I was very grateful for. But you kind of hope the film can justify that. After the screening, I was in a bit of a state. I mean, I wasn't blubbering in the street. Internally, I was a little kind of as to how it had gone. I didn't know, and so I was dying to get some kind of sense of the press screening, how that went, and this morning too, and I couldn't get it online. Okay. So I'm there thinking, I hated it. No one said anything other than that. That's why I'm assuming that it didn't work, and it's a failure. And I should just leave town now. But I understand the reception's been good so far. So I don't know. I may regret that in a few hours. But.
No. I obviously did go last night inside, and you have nothing to worry about.
Oh, good, thank you.
Which kind of maybe leads to the next question about HBO picked it up. So you must
yes, we had I worked with Nancy and Sheila at HBO on several films. In fact, Sheila picked up a kind of obscure documentary I made in the mid-90s and acquired it, and it did very well for them. And I think she liked the sensibility of that film. We then worked together on a film called Wisconsin Death Trip, which again Sheila and Nancy worked on with me, and they were very, very helpful on that film. I love HBO, to be honest with you, as a viewer.
Good, yeah.
I love what they've done in drama. I love Sheila's done an amazing, has an amazing track record of supporting great documentary films. It's a very good home for us, and I'm saying that not to be a good boy, but because I really mean it. And it's nice to be in business with people you respect.
So, for the film Project Nim, what do you think the college market could take away from
that's
this?
interesting. Well, the thing is, it's set in an academic environment at the beginning. It's a scientific inquiry. It's about trying to establish whether a chimpanzee can learn language and then what he'll do with that language. But not to bore your audience, there's quite a lot of other stuff going on too. There's a lot of sex in it, a lot of violence. What do you from a movie? Sex and violence and animals. It's good. There's nudity, chimp nudity, and a bit of female nudity too. On and on. So there's much to offer a young audience, I hope.
You predominantly have done documentaries. I know
my
there
background
were a
is
few.
I started out as a documentary filmmaker in the 90s at the BBC in the UK. But always had ambitions to make feature films, and I made a film in the year 2000 called Wisconsin Death Trip, which is a hybrid between drama and documentary. I'd like to kind of be able to do both, and I don't see a big distinction between them, to be honest. The great thing about real life stories is that they're unarguably story. I mean, they really happened, and I made a film called Man on Wire, that you could never make that story up with those characters. No one would believe a word of it. And what was brilliant about that film and that story was that there were so many details that just sounded so totally preposterous. That could not have happened, and it did happen. And that's what documentaries are for. They tell the stories that you would never believe if they were fiction. That's one of their virtues, I think. Real life has so many surprises and ironies in it that you can discover through a documentary film.
Why was Nim your next choice for the real life subject?
Nature of the story and the challenge of the story, trying to tell the life story of an animal. Felt like a very intriguing challenge on a sort of just a level of can I do this? Can this support a full-length feature documentary on an animal? People sit through this. I mean, I was fascinated by the story and felt that was a very interesting challenge. Also, the ideas in this story are very interesting. If you're a parent, if you've looked after a baby, if you're interested in nature versus nurture, or animals or primates. There are all these things in this film. I have young children, and that was one of the motivations I had for doing the film, was just that relationship you have with infants and how you shape them in certain ways and how they have their own nature and character from very early on. And you see, it's a beautiful thing. The producer I worked with on Man on Wire, who came across the book that was written about Nim, his life story essentially, in a book, and he gave me the book to read, and I was just gripped by it and thought, well, this is a great subject for a film.
Were you working on something at the same time that
you always have to work on at least 3 or 4 different projects because of the nature of the business you're in, but that you have to kind of develop 4 or 5 things for one of them to be ready, perhaps if you're lucky when you finish this film. It's a very kind of precarious business I'm in. So yeah, of course I had other films. I wrote 2 other screenplays whilst making Project Nim, and I'm also working on another feature film, which I didn't write, but someone else wrote, that I might do in the spring. So.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that's fascinating about maybe the film industry that not a lot of maybe our audience would understand. You know, that you're not just focusing on.
Don't become a filmmaker. It's a terrible way to make a living. It's terrible. No, it's true. It's a very, very. You're self-employed, and you're only as good as the last film you made.
Okay.
So if this one's a real fucking clunker, I'm in trouble because I don't get to make another one.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can hope for as director is that you've made a film good enough to allow you to make the next one.
Yeah.
And that isn't always the case.
You're at the film festival now. Would you say that anything particularly about film festivals helping your documentaries or your movies kind of get started? Like, what is the importance of the film festivals?
Well, they're very important to filmmakers. It can be the one time you get to show your work, and to be selected for a very competitive festival like Sundance is already a sign of that you've got something.
Right.
They have a very interesting track record, and I think particularly in documentaries, it's a really great festival for documentaries. They're given equal billing to feature films. Documentaries are very much respected by the festival, and they've been a launch pad for many great documentary films.
Right. You said you had just finished this film,
last Friday.
Yeah, so that's amazing.
Yeah, no, and it was a very sleep-deprived week, and I came straight here, and I'm all over the place.
Wow.
Because of it, which is a lot of it.
Well, obviously, we appreciate you even answering our questions.
Indeed, no, I'm very, very keen to reach the college audience.
Are you really?
No, I really am.
Yeah, let's start.
It's the future, after all. I'm James Marsh. I made a film called Project Nim, and you're clicked on College Movie Review. College Movie Review. Let me do that again. I garbled. I can do anything else, but this is the stuff I find really hard to do.